So before we render our app, let's navigate to that page so when our app is rendered, we're already at the right spot. So we're going to say window, history, push state. But the first argument is the state. We don't really care about that. Second argument is the title. We'll just say test page. And then the final argument is the actual route we want to be on, which for us is going to be /book and then /some ID. So we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now if we save this, we're going to get a slightly different response. Here we get a console error, status 404, book not found. So let's handle when we make that request for this book. Let's come up here and yeah, we're not really getting any information there. So I'm going to add a console.log for the URL and config here again. So this gives us a better idea of what requests we need to be handling. And you know, I noticed something right now, authorization undefined. Well, if you look into this a little bit, you'll find that the book utility here for getting a particular book uses this use client hook. And if we dive into the use client hook, this uses use auth to get the user, and the user should have a token. So why does that user not have a token? Well, it's because the backend should send a token back with that user when we call Bootstrap. So let's make sure to include that, but that's starting to make me feel a little bit uncomfortable about mocking things out with window.fetch. It looks like I mocked out this endpoint incorrectly. But let's just add it here for now. We'll say token, and we'll want it to be the same that we have here in local storage. So we'll say some fake token. And sweet, now we've got bearer, some fake token. Things are in a good place here. So now we need to handle this books endpoint. So I'll copy this and we'll say if the URL ends with that books endpoint. And I guess this could technically be an else if, and we'll want that to be a dot ends with. There we go. Now we'll want to return a successful response here. And the response for us will be an object that has a book on it. And that book has a title, hello, an ID, what, author, fake author. You know what? I'm so done with typing this out. We're not going to do this. No, instead what we're going to do is generate the book. And we've actually got a generator in this app already. So I'm going to import build book from test generate. And so then right here, I can say my book is build book. And now this book is going to have everything that a typical book has. And if we dive into that, this is just using Faker to generate an ID and title and author and all the other things that you could imagine. And it looks like we also have a build user in here as well. So let's do both of those things to communicate that no, it doesn't actually matter that this user's username is Bob and that their token is some fake token. All that really matters is that this is a typical standard user for our application. So we're going to say /book ID, and we'll copy this same thing for the URL that we're handling. And instead of typing all of that out, we'll just say, let's return that book that we generated. And then we can do the same thing for our user. User equals build user. And we'll take all the user props right here and combine it with that token. And now we should be in a pretty good place. Oh, it looks like we're making a request that's not handled. And that's right, we're saying API/books, but the route is book/. So those two aren't quite the same. We'll add an S there and hopefully handle that. Perfect. So now we're rendering the book screen with all of the book's information. Great, so in review, we did a couple of things here. First, we wanted to get our test on the route that the user is going to land on for the book screen. So we used window history push state to get us on the right page. We also generated a book and we used that book's ID. And then through this process, we noticed that our API mock here was not complete. And so even though our test was passing, the code wasn't functioning the way that it actually would in production. So we needed to fix our API mock a little bit to send that token along with the Bootstrap request. And then with all of this set up, our code started to make a request to the books endpoint for the book that we landed on. So we had to add an additional handler here, and we simply returned the book information that our backend would return if we hit our backend at that URL. And doing all of that made it so that when we called screen debug, we see that we are on the book page and we see all of the book's information.